recognize Mr. Garcia from California for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Weingarten. I appreciate all the work first that you do, that our teachers do across the country. I'm an educator myself. I'm married to an educator, and so I appreciate the hard work. You know, I just want to recenter ourselves and remind us that we went through a massive disruption to our country, to lives. We lost over 1 million Americans. My city alone lost 1,300 residents within my community when I was mayor, just right before I got elected to Congress. This was a traumatic, horrific event and the largest loss of life event of the modern era. And so this idea that there aren't going to be mistakes made in our institutions or organizations, of course, is ridiculous. There are going to be lessons learned, whether it's in our education sector, whether it's in public health, whether it was in the way the government managed on the vaccine rollout. We are going to learn how to make things better. And I want to just uplift the fact that teachers were working under terrible conditions, very situations where they also have family. I want to remember that teachers also have family at home, also have sick parents at home. We're also trying to protect themselves, their loved ones, and their own children outside of the classroom. And so I just want to take that moment that everybody was scared and trying their absolute best. During the pandemic, the Long Beach Unified School District was the largest school district to reopen schools when we reopened, because teachers were vaccinated, because we vaccinated teachers early on and got them the supplies that they needed and the resources that they needed.
We often looked at your school district as a model for what to replicate.
Thank you. And a big part of that was because we made the decision early on to double vaccinate all of our teachers and to ensure that everyone had access to the vaccine early. We actually were the first school district, the first city to actually vaccinate teachers in the entire state of California. And that vaccination led to reopening schools first and faster. And so there needs to be more emphasis on that vaccine access. I also just want to note, and it's been mentioned a few times, that it was President Trump that was, and his administration, that was really facilitating the closures and trying to get us reopened, and it was a total disaster. There was very little support early on from the Trump administration to actually get us support to support our schools. We worked directly with our schools, essentially sidelined the federal government and try to get as much support, whether it was materials, whether it was PPE, whether it was vaccines, directly to our schools. Now, I appreciate you mentioning Long Beach. In fact, President Biden also named Long Beach and our school system as the national model in reopening schools, and we appreciate that. Want to ask you, the American Rescue Plan was a lifesaver, as you know, for schools, for school districts. Beyond the American Rescue Plan, what else should Congress be doing to assist schools to ensure that in the future this doesn't happen again, and that we can reopen schools even faster?
So, several things. Number one, what we learned through the end of this pandemic, and I know that there are some issues in terms of, vaccination or not, but 90% of our members voluntarily vaccinated, and we took a position, and some people disagreed, and some teachers were fired because of it. We took a position that we needed to work with our members, work with school districts to get as many people vaccinated, our members vaccinated, even on a mandatory basis as possible, to open schools.
And on that point, and I support that, by the way. I think you've made the right decision.
And look, there's someone in this audience here today who disagrees with me about it, And so what I'm saying, though, is that in a pandemic, we need clear information. We need clear guidance. Most of us who are not scientists need to trust the scientists to give us clear guidance and the mitigating circumstances.
Absolutely. And
including ventilation and testing.
I agree completely. And vaccine hesitancy, which we know, in fact, members of this very Congress are some of the largest, most vocal vaccine deniers in America. Does that hurt? And would that have hurt with the reopening of schools? Did that actually cause any concerns for teachers on the ground?
Well, look, so Dr. Shaw from Rockefeller and I did an op-ed in January of 2021 that said we could reopen schools even without vaccination if we had the testing. And I think during the Omicron variant, we saw that testing really helped us keep schools open, just like it helped the NFL and just like it helped the NBA. And so I think that there's a combination of things that we need to know in terms of what is the measure to keeping people safe.
Absolutely.
And keeping people open.
And finally, I just want to say, if we really want to focus on ensuring, because there will be in future pandemic, ensuring that schools today have the resources that they need.
Correct,
that teachers have the
absolutely.
resources they need, that we're actually reinvesting in our schools, that's actually going to help to ensure that if there's a future pandemic, we can solve it even faster and learn from our mistakes. Thank you so much.